Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the 1tee Talkshow. It's been a wee bit of time. Thanks, Clan, for giving us very little to talk about up until this week. But yeah, back again. Cal, how are you, mate?
I'm doing good. Yep, good to be back on again.
Yep. As I said, we were sitting the last few days deciding, is it going to be next month? Is it going to be a month after that we record episode 2? Because, I mean, we were spoiled in the first episode. We had an entire roster almost to talk about, Cal, but yeah, it's kind of slowed down.
Well, obviously, again, as we said in the first episode, it's been an unusual off season for us. We don't normally have anywhere near as much to talk about as Clan fans, but we seem to be shaking up a different leaf this year. So it's exciting to talk about, and we've got a couple more to go now.
Yeah, I mean, as we were off air, I'd kind of take some notes of things we could talk about in episode 2. Some jokes I made to myself in my own notes. I'm going to rock with Norton being called Norton Antivirus for this season as a geek that myself is, which we'll get into. But let's start with Mr. Soflo himself, Cal. Cole Kodsi signing for the Glasgow Clan. I like this kid. I think he's got that confidence and aura about him. If you would, with this kind of, he's a bit of an influencer, isn't he? I like him. We'll pull up the stats. But what's your first thoughts on him?
Yeah, he seems to have a very like screwed on head. If you get me, he's like he looks to be a very hardworking player. Possibly, I would say maybe a bit of an upgrade on Parry, for example. It looks like he throws his body about a lot more, which is something I like to see, considering last year we really struggled in the physicality department. I think he'll be the go-to guy this year, and he looks like he can chip in a couple goals as well, which is good.
Yeah, let's bring up the stats then. A strange one with his age and his journey through the game, as you said. I think a guy just does it for the love of the game. Obviously, a breakout season at Orlando in the East Coast League last year. Season before that, dipped his toe in the East Coast at the end of the season of his collegiate level. Also, just throwing out a shout out to Union College. I mean, in the college hockey levels. I think if you've seen the bar down video, Cal, this is this 1 million invested college
Yeah,
hockey program. It's a good place to be picking up the tools of the trade. So yeah, it's a strange journey, but he certainly made a big impact. I mean, the social media for the guy is off the hook. But yeah, I think he's going to be a real talent, and you can see the points there. Obviously, 20 points in 56 after dipping his toe in a point in 6 games at Orlando the previous season. College hockey, 12 points in 31, and also at this time of Union. I audibly, before we started this, Cal, I mentioned behind the scenes that we need to start talking about what we're showing on screen more, because this does go out on
yep.
Spotify. As someone that has podcasted for a good few years now, that was such a rookie mistake, and I'm not going to hide away from the fact that I did mute myself in the episode 1 and proceeded to talk. Quite a rookie mistake on my part. I did notice Cal almost chuckling at the time. I let him off with it. But yeah, let's final thoughts on Cole Kodsi. We were saying something along the lines of third line position for him.
I would say so. I think the guy just reminds me of Jacob Doty. He's quite a big build. He's gonna grind and play hard, and it does look like he can chip in the offensive zone as well. And it's just we all know it's a flawed stat, but a -1 plus minus through 56 games in the East Coast, nothing to shake your head at, that's for sure. So obviously we haven't seen a lot of him, but is there maybe a responsible side to his game there when he's on the ice? Maybe, he's safe with the puck. I mean, the penalty minutes also speak for itself. Maybe not responsible in that sense, but when he's on the puck, is he perhaps, gonna make the right plays, the smart plays? That's something I'm gonna be curious to see when the season rolls around.
And this is always a difficult point as well, is when the clan make signings, and the way that if you take the big sport over here in football, a lot more eyes on the game, a lot more stats. The newspapers pick it up, and you kind of get the lowdown on every single minute detail about the game. Whereas with hockey being an export from Canada and North America to here, it's a lot more difficult to get all the little details. But that's where the eye test comes in, and I'm sure we'll see a lot of them across the season. After Kodsi's announcement, there was the whole Nottingham season ticket holder email leak thing. It's kind of difficult to give that a lot more credit because it did seem like they kind of slipped up on it almost. But it was announced that Joe Hazeldine would be leaving the clan and re-signing with his beloved Nottingham Panthers. Cal, we wanted to talk a lot about clan signings, but I think it would be shoddy of us to not mention the influence that Joe has had in his time in Purple. A player that I have, we've both met in person several times.
Yeah.
And a friend almost. But an all-round great guy, and had a brilliant season in Purple last year. And it's sad to see the back of him. And we wish him all the best, but obviously not too good, given it's Nottingham.
Yeah, I think the value of a player like Joe has been vastly underrated in his time at the clan. Like, yeah, there's always comments that I see. It's like people are always quick to jump on like any of the mistakes or anything like that he's made. But like, I feel like a British defenseman that's gonna put up 20 points in the league, you're just not gonna get that easily at all. I think depending on how our Brit situation looks, that's going to be very hard to replicate going into next season. So yeah, it's one that I'm a bit upset about. But I have faith that we will hopefully end up with a suitable replacement in the end.
Yeah, it's always difficult to tell because I think, as we'll go into later, our third line defence pairing as of now, in our opinion, is bare. No lefty, no righty. Obviously, the Chris McKay and Hazeldine line was transferred from the previous season towards this season. A massive step in experience for Joe. He took a lot of responsibility. I think even if you want to talk about his partner, Chris McKay, obviously still up in the air about his return. A lot of different rumours flying around with him. The roles in which they both played from the first season to the second season seemed to shift. I feel like McKay became more of the physical presence, which allowed Joe to play hockey. Whereas I feel in the first season, Joe maybe not taking the responsibility of being the offensive driver and letting McKay do it. I think we've seen the best out of that line last season.
For sure. And of course, well, both of them miraculously by the end of the season ended up on the power play. That was something interesting to see. They weren't both on there as defensemen in McKay's case. I mean, the net front presence seemed to work in the end, so that was certainly something. But it was a big step for Hazeldine in his development, getting that power play, those power play minutes, and kind of you saw him come into his game offensively, and that's something that you like to see from any Brits, really. So obviously, as we've said, it's going to be a big shoes to fill sort of case.
I'm not always one for the welcome backs. The first games we play against our former players, I think everybody was feeling the pressure of the Mitch Herd return for Sheffield, and I think it's the first time ever there was no round of applause for an ex-player. There will certainly be a good ovation for Joe when he comes back to Braehead Arena in the new season. But as you said, talking about the British players, let's crack on to a former clansman who ended up in Fife. Rhys Kelly, after his departure from the clan, made the move, which kind of left some people puzzled when he left clan to go to Sheffield with the role he would end up playing. But after his time in Sheffield, he has moved back to Scotland to the Fife Flyers. Cal, he'll take a responsibility on the Flyers. I think he needs to, with the way that the squad will end up being drawn up in Kirkcaldy. But everything that happened with Reese at the Clan, I'm almost like, and I hate to say it because he is at Fife, but I'm happy he has landed on his feet.
Yeah, apart from it being Fife, of course,
Yeah.
I think that's really going to be a really good fit just for that organization as a whole. They've got Tim Wallace in as their coach now, and he's sort of leading this like Brit revolution almost up there is what I've been told anyway. Yeah, they're making a young, a very hungry team, barring Hunt, who's a fossil. Um, yeah, they seem to be going young. They're a group of like a core group of like really hungry, youthful guys who are gonna put in the effort each night, and I think that's gonna really work for Kelly. I wouldn't be shocked if they started, easing him into the second D pair. You know, he's had that time down in Sheffield now, so you got to hope that the expectations are there, that he's picked up things from these really good defensive players that Sheffield have had now, and he's now going to be able to put that into practice up in Fife.
Well, yeah, learning off of the Steelers D, I mean, death taxes and Sheffield signing really athletic, charismatic, skillful defensemen who can chip in with points. That's just the way it seems to be. A team that made a signing of an ex-Clan player now that is a thorn in our side on the ice because we never seem to be able to crack the code. Became a thorn in our side off the ice for the second season in a row, funnily enough. Last season, Cole Yulee, now Brett Newman. The Guildford Flames have they've stiffed us again, Cal. He's a player that I was a massive fan of, and you could vouch for that over the season. A player right from the off I thought was going to be special at the Clan. Ends up being part of a very special season for the Clan, but a highlight reel, season. Some of the goals he scored was beautiful, marred by the kind of inconsistencies in lineups, lineup combos throughout the season, when everything that comes with the coaching change. But I'll certainly miss Brett Newman, Cal. What's your thoughts on that departure?
Yeah, we certainly mentioned in the first episode that we had a lot of players who were victim of circumstance when it came to things throughout the season, and I definitely feel that this was one of those players. I mean, 21 goals. I mean, that speaks for itself. We were struggling with goals all season, and he was one of the only ones that kept putting the puck in the net somewhat consistently throughout that season. So, yeah, I mean, he was fast, skillful, and he had a wicked shot on him. That's hard to replace, and Guildford just seemed to keep robbing us. We really got to sort that part out.
Yeah, I'm almost fed up of that now. They need to stop signing our stars. I mean, we bumped into Cole Yulee at Glasgow Airport on the way down to the playoffs, and we
We
were
did.
thinking of a million reasons why as to, he's just heading home, and yet there he ends up in Guildford. Couldn't have foreseen that with Brett, though. Shame all round. But another player that goes with our best wishes. Yeah, I hope he just isn't one of these players that fills our net up next year, because that would
we
suck.
have a terrible history of former players doing that, as seen plenty times this season.
Yep, indeed we have. Next up, I suppose one that was kind of out of the blue for the Clan, out of the purple. You could maybe make that the reference. I wonder if that'll catch on. Probably not. Um, I'm going to say it because I love it, and I don't care if I'm the only person that calls it as it is for the season, but Norton Antivirus. It's a strange one, Cal, because there was a lot. We spoke about this in the first episode about where's our goaltending goal. After obviously Sammy leaving, Soulier re-signing, there was obviously talk about that Brit spot, who was going to fill it. Obviously, with Lucas Bryan ending up in Sheffield, there was going to be something new happening. And we'd pondered, is McGowan going to have some sort of promotion? Could it be somebody else from maybe a Warburton to a McLaughlin or something along those lines? And Clan announced Norton is our Brit goaltender. Couldn't have told you that was going to happen if you gave me a million guesses, but for the role he will play, I suppose in his case it will be useful development for him.
Yeah, I would be really, really shocked if it was something other than he's here to learn off of more experienced import goalies. I don't expect that he'll see much ice time in like competitive games. That's for certain anyway. If we got to the case where it was a blowout, perhaps he would get some minutes in that way. But I mean, look, he's young. He's 21 years old. He's got so much of his career ahead of him. If he develops here, then that could be a great benefit for us as a club. So I mean, I hope that is the case. I mean, the last player from Doncaster at the Clan, turned out to be pretty damn good for us.
Well, I mean, we're hoping for a Brit goaltender remontada. I'm using this expression a lot more. The comeback after everything that seemed to fall apart with the Lucas Bryan saga at the Clan and the coaching and everything, that all the juicy information, which I'm not going to spend too much time discussing. I'm sure there'll be enough of that floating around on Twitter and social media if you care to go and look for it. But yeah, I'd love to see us develop him into something spectacular. But as of now, the expectations do need to be he is learning. And in terms of goaltending, Cal, we discussed Johan Matson being a rumoured signing in episode 1. Didn't end up being that way, which I think it almost felt a wee bit too good to be true at the time, with a CV that he had. But Glasgow Clan announced the signing of, let's bring up the stats, Rasmus Tirronen, Finnish goaltender. We seem to like our Finns all of a sudden, Cal. We're slowly becoming, a full squad of Finns. I mean, if there was a Finn rule instead of a Brit rule, then we'd be absolutely balling. But competitive seasons in the Ice League with Linz, it's hard to distinguish, how this signing comes about other than our assistant coach having insider knowledge almost, because obviously with a fan's favourite like Sammy moving on, and we had forecast it would be something big to happen. It's hard to, I don't feel let down by this signing, but it's just strange how it has ended up this way.
Yeah, I was very puzzled when I first saw the signing. Yeah, as seen in the signing post that Clan put out, Steve Burnstall obviously was the one talking in that, and he's clearly seen something firsthand that has obviously brought Rasmus to the table and why we should bring him on board. I think definitely one of the key things for me is the games played. He's played a lot more hockey than Aitakaliu has over the last couple of years. So it definitely makes me think that we're wanting to go with a goalie that we can lean on to play these longer stints of games and rely on to be relatively consistent in our league. And the Austrian league is a strange one when it comes to comparisons for goalies. Obviously, you can't ever judge anything perfectly, but you've got goalies like Tom McCollum from Belfast. When he was here, he was somewhat inconsistent for the Giants, and of course they let him go. So yeah, that's a strange one. Whereas on the other hand, if you have down in Guildford, Justin Fazio, who came in, I think he played 37 odd games, had a 9.33 save percentage. So Obviously, Rasmus Tirronen is on the older side, but does have the upside that he can play a lot of games. So I'm hoping what we get out of this one is a lot of games out of this guy at a consistent competitive rate. And I feel like with a good complete decor, we could be onto something good with this one.
Time will tell. It's obviously all the addition of being difficult to to kind of to discuss goaltending, because it just depends on your entire roster almost at the time. You can have an absolutely incredible goaltender, but with a shoddy roster behind them, the stats can be completely flawed by blowout games where the team just is played off the ice. So yeah, very difficult to tell. I mean, the stats over the last 3 seasons in Linz, I suppose in a way you're playing consistently at a decent level. The Austrian league is as you said, it's a strange league, but 266 goal GAA, 240, 209, averaging there, I'd say across the seasons around 900 ish. Last season, obviously, a small dip under that, but the games played is a major stat there, Cal, as you said. It's going to be so strange because you have a player like Liam Sully who we brought in and have banked on to continue at the Clan, and then bringing in not an unknown as such, but a new import goaltender to contest for that G1 position. It's going to be such a time will tell decision, but for the experience, the age, and then the extra CV places, you'd lean on him being your G1 ahead of Sully. And I say that as someone who really does like Sully. It's just CV talks. But I suppose when Mike sees him play, it'll be his decision. The Clan also announced, I suppose, what we will end up discussing as a kind of Newman replacement as such. Ross Armour joined the Clan. As someone that, it was strange because, as I said to you when he signed, that's a Newman replacement, but it's obviously not in terms of looking at size of player, play style, but from points
Yeah.
perspective and from inside the league, Cal, it's kind of in the same way that in Moneyball, if you think of the movie, you can't recreate the player, but you can recreate them in the numbers. You're picking up consistent points within the league, which, as we said, it's difficult to judge players coming from Austria or the NCAA or the East Coast League. But if you have someone who was playing in Nottingham last year and put up points, then you'd lean your hat on the fact that he might be quite a good player for us.
Yeah, I think like comparing him to Newman as well, it's you've got the goals there. You can see that as well. The 21 goals, but he also has the 21 assists, which definitely looks like he's a bit more of a complete player. He can do both sides of the offensive role. I know from talking to a good few Panthers fans that he is a guy who will go to the front of the net. He will be that body in front. He's looking for like tip ins, backdoor plays for the tap in. He's very greasy in front of the goal, which I like. I've been crying out for a player like that for a long, long time. They did raise the concern that he was a fan of taking a silly penalty occasionally, and I've seen the video of him, pardon me, a video of him with his stick on the ice as the puck is rolling by, and he's on the bench and he bats the puck with his stick as he's on the bench and takes probably the most needless penalty I've ever seen in my life. But I'm hoping we don't see much of that and we get the full 42 points with no penalties. But that's the perfect world that we're not in.
Clan players don't take silly penalties, Cal. I don't know how many times I've told you over the years, players like Dyson Stevenson definitely didn't take any silly penalties in his time in Glasgow. But before I get, killed for that comment, we'll move on to just discussing that time. Obviously, the East Coast League. Before jumping over to Europe, we had a bit of time in the Del 2, not many games, but again, it's very difficult to tell. East Coast, we've said this before, especially when talking Langen last week, that the East Coast is just such a strange league.
His there's a highlights package out there on YouTube which I did watch after we signed him. I was rather curious over the signing, and just all of his goals on there were just exactly what you want to see. If you get me, he's got like he has a wrist shot on him. He can take a slap shot. He can take a one timer. He can set up in front of the net for a tip in. He, he just gets it offensively from what I saw. So I'm really hoping that we can get a playmaker alongside him to complement that style of play.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a main one, is who did you pair him with? Now, I suppose that does take us on to where the squad is looking at this point in time. Obviously, as of recording, we're on the 11th of June. World Cup fever just about to start in the football world, but in the off season, still very early days. Again, strange that the clan have been so involved so far. But if we bring up this graphic here, just showing us what our lineup card can look like at the moment. This is obviously not confirmed. I don't have Mike's around in my contacts list. I haven't given him the old nudge and said, "What's it looking like so far, Mike?" Obviously, our first line centre, I think, is probably the easiest position to call. Cal Tristan Lang just jumps in there straight away.
Yeah, easily a top 5 player in this league for me. But based on last season alone, and just comparing him to other sort of similar players, I can't see a situation where he isn't your 1C.
And I suppose that leans into what we were just saying about Armour needing a playmaker. Is that I think Lyon can do absolutely everything when he's on the ice. He showed in the playoff stint in the final stretch he became a more physical player, but he scored big goals. He's made slick plays for assists the whole season long. He could be somebody that I think can get the best out of Armour.
Yeah, for sure. I think if you can definitely get that number one left winger to put in alongside them, that could be a very, very good line for this league. Yeah, I mean, like we said it in episode 1, like no matter the situation that Langen's in, he just makes it look easy in that offensive zone, no matter what it is he's doing. He retains the puck well. He can make a pass. He just knows what to do. Like we've not had a player like that for a good while, so it's nice to see, the potential that you could get in that line.
I think from looking at our roster card as is, it's almost strange, I know, and as we said in the first episode, the clan made an extortionate amount of re-signings, and it splashed in a couple of signings as we went. But seeing almost the bottom 6 complete is strange to me, especially when I say to you, what happened with Cade? Because he's a player that, as we've said in the first show, there was a lot of talk about a release figure for his elite league rights. Maybe teams not wanting to pursue that because of that fee. Does he re-sign in Glasgow? Well, where does he fit in that team in this bottom 6? Because obviously Ryland Schwartz there is your third line C, Lakovic fourth line C. Is this going to be one of these where we're actually going to potentially see Lacko take some time away from the team? Because that was kind of supposed to be, he was going to be part player, part assistant coach last season, and then it's another year in the legs. Same with Schwartzy. Could you see a world potentially in which if Lacko sits, Schwartzy drops to 4 and you slot Cade in if you re-sign him? Because at this case, as of now, looking at the card like that, there is no spot for Cade. Or natural spot,
Yeah,
at least.
I think it's definitely going to be weird. I will say lineups are always a fun thing to do before the season starts, and personally, I could see a couple of different scenarios, all depending on if Cade does resign, if he doesn't, or if we go with a Brit D as well. It's obviously it's hard to say. I could see either one of Schwartz or Risk jumping up to the second line if you keep Cade. It just is a question of who and how do you make it fit. Does obviously if Risk jumps up to your second line left wing, does that then keep Schwartz in the second and push either him or Cade to the right wing? Or does Schwartz move up to the left wing, making Kay your natural third line center? Personally, for me, I would at this point prefer it if we went with the Brit defenseman. That's just my personal opinion on how I like the lineup. But I'm also not sure if Cade does come back and you would want to put him as your fourth line center. I don't know if he's going to be happy to play that limited time, especially on reported the amount that he demands in a salary.
He's a player that I think has the ability to take the next step in the game, in terms of the British game, from being just a useful Brit player to being a useful player altogether in the league. I think you've seen that with the extra responsibility that was given with Team GB. If the client can't make it stick, then I think that's kind of the way it is. It would be so strange if we were to be playing hardball within the league on that fee and yet not able to sign them at all. That would be a strange one. You wonder how that would work out. Looking at the D pairings, then we spoke about Saigo and Teppo and the re-signings in the last episode, because the main factor I mentioned the last episode was the age of that pairing. Now, I'm not saying that they're going to fall off a cliff in terms of productivity. I thought Saigo played some of his best hockey in the stretch. He took on that responsibility as the captain, and I thought he really stood out. But a whole season in the legs, for that pairing, I don't see a world in which that can be your top line. And with the Routinen signing, I think it's got to be Saigo Teppo second line as displayed on the screen.
Yeah, I agree with that one. It was a case of like we were inconsistent throughout the season, and I think it took us a while to get going. So I would be surprised, especially as you say, given the Roughton signing, that Saigo and Teppo were to be your first pair. I think you've brought in a 28-year-old Finnish guy in Roughton who's played years and years in the Finnish Liga. He's got KHL experience. He's had a good year in France. I think he's probably going to be coming and expecting that higher ice time on the first pairing. So, I would be shocked if he was to split up Teppo and Saigo as well. Especially considering given the Michele Teppo clan chat that's out now as well. He obviously speaks himself that they enjoy playing together. It was a good pair that was one of the first things they messaged each other when they both resigned. So I don't see that pair being split up, which for me makes them the second D pair.
Yeah, I think it would be obscene to do that, after a consistent season of that pairing. I mean, I had no real complaints about it. I think when the Dupuis Saigo line was split up, I wasn't too upset about that when Dupuis did not resign. But I think to keep those two together would give you that continuity, which, as we know, across the elite league, is such a major factor in being successful. We see that in team after team, year after year. If you can keep your core guys who play together on a consistent basis together, then you've got a leg up on the opposition already. I suppose in rounding around the D is that I'd like to see who this top line right defenseman would be. I mean, there's a bit of talk about, was it Cody Donaghy? He would be a right-handed defenseman. Good enough to be the top line, Cal. I think he would suit that role, with the experience. But again, that's nothing more than a rumor. I don't have insider knowledge on that one.
Yeah, I think his name was linked with us previously, I want to say, along with Andrew McWilliam. That was they've both been linked with moves to Clan, I believe, and also across the Elite League. It is an interesting one for sure. It would fit the lineup well. He's 30 years old. He's a big body, and he does add onto the score sheet when he can as well. So I definitely wouldn't be opposed to that if that was my number one right D. But I suppose it just really depends on that how that third pair goes as well. Obviously, it's sitting empty right now. We're not sure if Chris McKay is going to be re-signing or not. So yeah, I would be happy with that, especially after his second Cody Donaghy's second year with Cardiff.
Well, let's touch on that third line D then. As you said, the Hazeldine McKay line is no more, unfortunately, with Joe's departure. McKay, I'm hearing the 12 different rumours about him every week that he's
Yeah,
signing here, he's staying with the clan, he's going there. Nothing concrete at all about what's happening with Chris. I mean, it would be so strange to see him on that third pair without Joe. And he wouldn't be a player that if he left, I would be too heartbroken about because I mean, by no means is he a bad player. I don't believe that at all. But if you were going to split up that line, maybe a fresh start as a whole would be the right move. Um, a bit of discussion about a favourite of yours and a favourite of one of his teammates, Rhodes Mitchell King, after another point-filled season in the NIHL. Um, could he make a full-time leap to the Elite League? I know he had I think a singular game appearance for Belfast last season. Could he make that leap to be a full-time Elite League player?
yeah. I mean, his name has obviously it's been talked out about on social media quite a lot, and obviously it did then come out. The supposed rumor to Glasgow. For me, obviously, it does feel like it has kind of been just fabricated by fan talk and then picked up by a rumor account. But if we're talking wish list, that's the one for me. I mean, I've been keeping an eye on him for a little while now. I think if you're looking for a Joe Hazeldine replacement, that's the one there for me. I mean, he's massive for his age. He's already trusted with a lot of ice time at NIHL level. He's very good offensively there. Obviously, the jump up to the Elite League is a vastly different environment in that case. So he probably would have reduced responsibilities in that situation. But I mean, in terms of the talent, he's got it. I wouldn't be surprised if he is in the league very soon, whether it's Clan or not. I really hope it is Clan.
I'm thinking back to the good old days when a fresh-faced Zach Sullivan was signed by the clan from Basingstoke, and there was a lot of questions about, well, it is a bit of a leap. I mean, Sully's been playing in the Elite League consistently ever since then, and that was back in 2013. So if you can bank on a guy and give him that chance to develop, and Rhodes, as I said earlier, points a good barrel load more than Sully was doing. Obviously, a different style of player, but
also way more than Hazeldine as well at that level.
Yeah, it certainly looks like there is an upside you could bank on, and I think if that was possible, to get him a full time gig and make him a third line D with just looking at the players around them, because although I did mention Saigo Tepo's age, hell of a lot of experience there, and that would be great to learn under someone who has got the leadership at the tail end of the season. Two Finnish players were consistent in their homelands and took a steps away from there. It would be brilliant for him to learn off of those players. I agree with you. If that's possible, I think we get that done. But just have to wait and see. Well, I think we're kind of towards the end of our show this week, Cal. The clan, it's kind of in their hands because as of now, the only thing that was announced today was the Socky tops and the Warrior numbers. I don't think I've had a Socky top with the clan since the Socky top at the clan became a thing back in the day. But yeah, if that's your kind of thing, then by all means, crack on. They're up for sale now. You're a fan of the Socky, Cal, aren't you?
I use them if I'm exercising, they make good tops for running about in hockey or anything like that.
You dabble in the socky.
Yeah,
It's
occasionally.
it's not
I'm
one that I
uh
would.
I'm not sure how I'm feeling about this year's designs. I'll put it that way.
Oh, well, I'm happy you said it because I'm thinking along the similar lines as you, my friend. But it's not like I was looking for an excuse not to get one
Yes.
this year.
I do think one other sorry to side tangent. I think another talking point is we're still waiting on any news of preseason as well. That's something that Clan seem to have been, teasing us with for a while now, and yet just don't seem to be, giving us an inch for it. We've seen well, obviously the elephant in the room. Clan aren't in the Warrior Cup this year. That's a pretty big thing that we're not doing. We've obviously said that we're doing preseason from home this year, which is going to be different. We've done it before with the summer series previously, so we can host it. We just haven't hosted anything like that in a good while. So it's definitely I want to see something announced pretty soon because I've spoken to several people from the clan regarding preseason last year, and they were, rather excited to have Herlev and Marseille visiting Braehead, and they wanted to see the away fans, come and experience things in Scotland, and then we ended up having basically nobody there. So I feel like the longer they leave it, the less chance you're going to have those away fans. You're not going to have as an exciting atmosphere for preseason, and it is just going to feel like practice games again.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think the Warrior Cup not being renewed, so to speak, from a clan standpoint, even though it is continuing to go on ahead in Cowthburn. Some would say that they had to downsize the tournament this year and get a second bit, hockey team from Britain to play in it. I've heard somebody say it. I don't know if it was me, but somebody else said it.
Well, I have seen the comments from the Cowboy fans, and they are pretty disappointed that their friends from Glasgow are not there this year.
Mm, oh,
Big
yes,
shoes to big shoes to fill for a certain British team.
yeah, very very merry fans from last year as being there. Obviously, you were there for both the inaugural Warrior Cup from a clan
Yes,
perspective, and then I tagged along with you last year. Real shame because great town to be involved in, great atmosphere, great fan collective, and obviously everything that came after that with the Nuremberg
for
support in
sure.
Glasgow. Um, Hopefully there'll be some sort of follow up there. I'm sure there'll be some sort of fan get together again at some point down the line. But yeah, as to circle back to with the Herlev and Marseille, I think they do. If they need to get their finger out so that the fans, if you want to promote an atmosphere similar to what we experienced in Cowthburn, well, it took us time to organise that travel to get from
Yep,
here to
for
there.
sure.
So it's not like that just doesn't happen for the away teams if we're playing at home. If you give them enough time, then and there's a committed fan base of a team you're playing against, then they'll make that trip. So hopefully sooner rather than later the clan give us something on that. But once it does, I'm sure we will have our opinion on whom and when it is on the next
Of course,
episode
of
or whenever
course.
that would be. So yeah, not much else to do but to wrap up for this. Thank you for anyone tuning in. Thanks for the uptake on the first episode. I get lots of good messages and support. Thanks for taking the time out of your days to get involved with the clan community from a supporter standpoint. Just two lads that like talking hockey, Cal, and we
Yeah,
dabble on the podcast on the side. So yeah,
always good.
we've been
Always good to hear positive talk about the clan. That's seeming to becoming more common these days, which is very good after the last couple of years we've had after COVID and all that.
Yeah, certainly would be nice if that can keep going. As maybe some of the mainstream media will eventually pick up on it. But yeah, thanks for joining me, Cal, for another episode.
Of course, thank you.
And thanks again for tuning in. We'll speak to you next time when the clan have hopefully got some more exciting signings and extra news to talk about. Until next time, thank you very much, and we'll see you later. Thank you.